All right. So the best way to show you what shots are is obviously through examples. So let us begin with the number one shot, which is the medium shot. I know it sounds like I'm gonna say something crazy, but it's just medium shot. But anyway, it's the most popular shot when you're trying to keep it regular, normal, not trying to convey too much, too many high emotions, but also I want to focus a little bit on the body language. So a medium shot kind of ends like right here, as you can see on screen. All right, rule number three, leading lines. What are these lines? Where do they come from? Who gives them? Leading lines are lines that exist naturally in the world and they exist in your frame that you choose to shoot. And those lines help your viewers direct their eye to the center of the frame or to your subject. Now take a look at these images. How these leading lines help our viewers know what exactly the subject is. Depending on the lines, you can set your horizon however you want. Setting the horizon honestly also falls under these leading lines because that line is important as to what you want the audience to see. What these leading lines actually does is it helps create a symmetry and it guides the eyes to the entire image or to your subject. Let's see some examples. See how these lines over here help bring up the character. They act as leading lines because these lines lead to your character to create a beautiful symmetry. Notice how we don't follow the rule of thirds over here, right? But this is where it was one of those examples where we break that rule and stand our creative ground. Always remember, if you're shooting something interesting on the ground, make sure to set your horizon up and do the opposite if you're trying to get a beautiful shot of the sky. Means horizon will be low. Angle number two, we have the high angle. Now, this is literally the opposite of the low angle. So we do this, let me see if we can get some guesses, to show someone who is not powerful and who is inferior. It is usually shown when you're trying to show someone a little less dominant. For example, in that example, we were saying the person who is shouting. In this example, it is the person who is being shouted at or being threatened with a gun. It is usually the one who is given this angle. So it's shot from the top where you see a high angle and you see the person looking like up there or on the to the character. So if you see, like for example, in this example, this man is being controlled by this woman. And this is a film that we recently released as a production house. It's called Countless. And the choice of this angle, why we chose this angle, is to showcase that he is continuously being dominated by this particular woman, right? So take a look how he is just like standing there and then he keeps falling down, right? He's finding something interesting, but he's falling down. So that's an example. All right, moving to rule number two, we have dominance. This is one of those things that I see a lot of filmmakers not doing it properly and somewhat ignoring it. Filling the frame or having dominance is very, very important. A lot of filmmakers that I see have a bunch of dead space everywhere. It is very important to keep the subject or character dominant in the frame. There are many ways that you can use the rules to make the character dominant. Let's take some examples. For example, if you're trying to shoot a product, you see that there's a lot of extra space everywhere and a lot of distractions. As a filmmaker, it is important to guide the audience's eyes and remove these unnecessary distractions and make the character or object, in this case, stand out. First, let's use the rule of thirds and then arrange these subjects and then move a little bit closer. And you see the other things automatically blur out, and that blur helps our eyes to guide to which object or character we should look at to make them stand out in the frame. Sometimes placing a blur image right close to a lens also helps get the focus in dominance. So for example, sometimes you might not do it properly. So that's when in post-production you can zoom it a little bit. But you have to be careful about that because sometimes when you zoom in too much, your things might get pixelated. So don't always fix it in post. Remember that. So okay. First we have the very, very most important, I would say important and also very, very basic. The three most basic. Let's talk about three most basic types of angles. They are mainly used in the occurrence of regular shots. All right. Number one, the low angle. This is usually taken from the bottom. showcasing the character to be up on a pedestal. So in your film, when you're trying to show someone maybe dominant or powerful, this is the angle that you used. It is sometimes used in horror films. It's used a lot actually to showcase the monsters, the ghosts. It's used in places where a character is being super angry at someone. And your goal at that point of time is to show them extremely powerful. It is also, and it could also be used as an entry of a villain, or in a film language, we call them an antagonist, which is the negative persona. Their only goal is to defeat the protagonist, which is the hero. All right, moving on. Rule number 4. This is called depth because we like going deep. I'm just kidding. This is one of the most famous rules of composition, creating depth, all right? The most common way to do it is with an aperture of a camera. We will cover details of a camera operations in our intro to live action module, so more on that later. But when you follow the other rules and compose your shot properly, it is important to make sure also that the background is somewhat a little bit blurred. This depends on what you're feeling for the particular character as well. That's why it's very important to keep your subjects in focus. Always maintain focus. When a subject is not in focus, it's called being soft. So if you are on set with filmmakers and you hear like, hey, focus is soft, that means the focus needs adjusting. People focus not only to see the subject clearly, but to also create depth between the foreground and the background. So, as a filmmaker, you will be challenged in various scenarios where the background and the subject may not be very far apart, right? You might not be able to create much of a depth through focus because it's together. So, this is where you use lights to create depth. Now, in basic terms, it would mean changing the light of the subject and the light of the background to create that contrast in lighting. This, in turn, would give you a sense of depth where you don't have an option. But again, we dive deep into the lighting subject again in our intro to live action module, where I will go in depth about how to light, what to light, and we'll consider these scenarios as well. So that's pretty much it for the rules of composition. Again, comment below if you have any questions. Moving on. Angle number 3. It's called the Dutch angle. Now, the camera has been rotated and the horizon has been shifted. Think about it like this. The primary use of a Dutch angle is to cause a sense of unease or disorientation for the viewer. So it could be, let's say someone took like a drug pill or is getting high by smoking something. So somebody got hit in their face, their head is spinning, right? So these are all different types of scenarios and examples where you can actually see. So let's take the same film Countless, for example. So this main character, right? He finally realizes that he is stuck in a loop. The way I decided to portray is to use a dolly and slowly switch the angle to Dutch. So even the audience feels uneasy because that, my friend, at that point of time is the motif of the story, not motive. There's a difference between motif and motive. A motif, it spells with an F, is a repetitive narrative element that supports the theme of a story. So the theme of the story in this particular example was continuous loops and uneasiness, right? So remember there's a difference between motif and motive. So these two things mainly matter of how you're going to choose your angle. Whether that is something that is good for your audience, whether that is something how you want your audience to feel. You need to always think that. Like tell everybody all the time, the angle that you choose, why are you choosing the angle that you're choosing? You need to think about what the audience wants to feel at that particular point of time. And if you feel that this is how the person should be feel, he should feel dominant, use a low angle. He should feel weak, use a high angle. So you need to play around with these a little bit more and understand. And slowly with practice, you'll understand how it works and why it works. Moving on to the next type of shot. This is called the close-up shot. It's like when you're close to a person. Now this is an interesting one. So usually when intense dialogue happens, when intense expressions, reflections are shown. Like, for example, somebody's screaming at someone, you want to show that mouth, how he's like screaming. You want to show that that's a close up shot. You go right to the face, right to the face. No personal space over there. For example, there will be situations where you want to get the same person in different shots. So you can basically show both of those type of shots based on the intensity in your edit suite. That's the whole point of like taking these different shots, right? So sometimes you want to take medium shots, sometimes of the same person you want to take close-up shots, right? So basically what this does is you're in your edit, you like cut between these two, and when a person is having some intense expressions or intense words, you cut at that point of time to that close-up shot which you took. So basically you can see playing with the audience's emotions to direct it the way you want to direct it and the way you want to show it as a director or as a filmmaker is very, very important. That is why these different type of shots are there. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Jijo Sengupta. I am your sensei, I am your teacher, I'm your professor, whatever you like to call it. So I love films. That is my background. Ever since I was 3 years old, I've been wanting to do this ever since. I am one of those people who are blessed and know what they want to do in their life. A little background, educational background about me. I did my bachelor's and my master's in films and animations with a specialization in VFX and CGI from the Rochester Institute of Technology in upstate New York. When I was in school over there, when I was in college, I made sure I sneak into different classes and learn each and every aspect that is there to do with film. So you can call me jack of all trades, master of everything. So starting with CGI, VFX, editing, color grading, color correction, animation, cinematography, color science, all of it, I am aware and I'm here to teach you guys. So the name of this class is Cinematic Composition Mastery. So in this class, what we will be learning is how to compose your footage, be it in stop motion, animation, live action, or just pure motion graphics. How do I compose my film? It runs across every single vertical. There are certain rules, there are certain regulations that you have to follow in order to make cinema look like cinema. Now, I'm a huge believer of breaking the rules, but in order to break the rules, you need to know them first. So in this class, I'm going to be running through each and every single one of them, that regardless of whatever avenue of film you choose to proceed with, this is going to be relevant in every single one of them. Now, you could be even a marketeer, you could be even like an Instagram social media person. These rules matter over there as well. These rules you have to know in order to make cinema look like cinema. Then once you know the rules, then go ahead and break them. But there needs to be you need to have a certain creative ground as to why you are breaking them, and that is what I'm going to teach you and give you examples of where to break the rules and where not to break the rules. This class is for the beginners. It's for the people who are starting off immediately in films. So use this as your stepping stone into the next level. So I will have another class called Live Action Filmmaking Essentials. This will be kind of like step number 1. That will be step number 2. So you can follow this as a path. But yeah, let's get started. I'm excited. I'm calling this the creative grammar. So let's go learn some grammar of film and then make our next masterpiece. Let's go. This type of shot is called the establishment shot. Now, honestly, this is so hard to explain. What is an establishment shot? Is the meaning there in the word? I don't know. Yes, guys, it is when you want to establish something. Literally, it is not at all complicated. It is when you want to establish something. So this shot is usually and purely used for establishing the location. All right. So what happens is sometimes location, it usually exists in the beginning of a scene, right? Starting of a movie, you usually see like a city skyscape. Usually in superhero films, you only see it in America, so New York City maybe. Sometimes you see like a desert, sometimes you see the planet Earth if it's like a sci-fi thing, right? So that's an establishment shot. It gives a wider feel to where this film, where the scene is located. And then sometimes it's like a house, it's a city, it could be a farm, it could be an airport, it could be like a station, whatever have you. It depends on your film, it depends what you have in mind. Welcome to one of the most important rules of filmmaking. In this chapter, I will teach you to become the master of this rule, and also when and how you can break it and when you need to. And trust me, there will be times where you will need to break this rule. For this, the best way is to let's check this diagram where we have two characters having a conversation. So let's assume we place the camera here. Now, as soon as you place the camera, there is an imaginary line that you need to create, which would directly dissect the characters from in between. Now you see guys, this line is the sacred line. You cannot cross it. I mean, you can with your feet, but not with the camera. That is a big, big no. If you cross it, it will confuse the hell out of your audience, especially in this case, where we are trying to shoot a conversation between character A and character B. What it does actually subconsciously in the back of your audience is that the audience loses track of the positions, the layouts of the film, and what that can do is make the audience start thinking about the technicality rather than the story and the characters of your actors who are doing something. And that is something that honestly you don't and never want from your audience. So when you break this 180, it will remove the audience from your story and your characters. And as you see, like right now on the screen, is if you cross it, it looks wrong, right? And it removes the way the audience feels and understands the location of where the characters are. It is about two things: location and the feeling of the characters. So keep in mind, you can use all the space to shoot whatever you want. Even when you're shooting over the shoulders or something like that, just make sure your camera doesn't cross the line. That's the most important. So whether it be it hip shot, whether it's like from the eyes, from like the feet, whatever it is, try to maintain that semicircle. Wherever you start off, maintain that semicircle. It's super important to keep your audience in check, keep your audience's emotion in check. Now let's go to the next lesson and learn how to break this rule and when it is relevant. The number three, this is called the wide shot or the long shot. Long meaning it's like long, far away from you. So this is usually used to give a break from the human element and go a little further away. Sometimes what happens, guys, in dialogues, intense scenes, or just in general, this type of shot is usually used to give the audience a little bit breather, like because sometimes you're like there's a fight sequence, for example, it's like punch kick, or sometimes an intense conversation, argument. Sometimes the audience it gets a little bit too much, right? So at that point of time, what you do is you just go wide, show the location, show all the characters in the scene. And what that does, number one, it gives the audience a breather, as I mentioned. Number two, it gives them a sense of location as well. Sometimes what happens in film, right, you're showcasing something, you're so involved and engrossed in this particular scene that what a lot of first time filmmakers do is they forget to step out. It is important for an audience to also get that subconscious breather, like, okay, I'm seeing things outside. And it gives them, you can use that as like a point to transition into the next scene or not. But overall, try to include a couple of wide shots in between some of the intense conversations. It helps give your audience a breather, a sense of comfort, a sense of location. Okay, so when it comes to shots, right, there's so many types. There's literally so many shots which are there. It's crazy. But let me break it down. Shots are usually used also for telling and conveying an emotion. And it's a little bit different than angles because the way angles work is it's like the way you hold a camera, right? That is how angles work. So the difference between shots and angles is that a shot is where the camera is placed. You can make a dance move out of this. And angles is like up, down, like you can also make a dance, but there are different types of dance moves. So it's like a combination of the shots and the angles together is what you can create an emotion. Camera angles, guys. That is the one of the most important things that I love. My favorite thing is camera angles. When you see something that you like, you have the right angle to see what you like. You get me? So, welcome. The angles of a camera, be it animation, live action, is the most important to tell a story. And there's so many jokes when it comes to camera angles between you and your crew, you will know. So, depending on how your angle is, it speaks differently to your audience, be it sexual, be it horror, be it funny. There's a lot of times we aren't really sure what type of the angle to use, and when to use it. So, towards the end of this chapter, we will see some examples from some films that I've done and some things that I've shot specially for you guys and see how they are used, especially only through camera angles. So let's dive in and let's make some magic. And keep tabs of Discord to understand the secret angle jokes. All right? Okay, so as you saw over here, you can check that the audience, which is you guys, was always with us throughout the entire time. Why was this? Why do you think that we could cross the sacred line over here? Guess. The right answer is that we did not use cuts. That is why we could cross that sacred line of 180. So without when there is no cut, what are you doing? You're bringing the audience with you throughout the entire journey, right? You're not cutting. When you're cutting, remember, you're transporting your audience to different locations at different times to show different perspectives. Over here, you are there continuous. So when you're there continuous, the audience does not get confused of the location, the audience does not get confused of the perspective, and the audience is with you thick and thin. All right, so remember that there are certain ways, certain times where you can actually break this rule. The one example is when you're not using cuts to move around. Good examples are good action sequences in popular films where you see, like the punching, the kicking, they move around in circle. So they're breaking 180 left, right, and center. They're breaking 360. So at that point of time, you can break it. So if you think there are certain situations in your film that you feel that should I break it or not, leave a comment below and let me know what you guys think, whether there's something you can break or not. All right. Thank you. Very important rule. So keep in mind, practice more. Cheers. What is composition? It is how you place things on the frame and where you place it in order to achieve the cinematic look. That is what composition is. So, to begin, we have one of the most simple rules, but one of the most effective rules. This rule is purely dependent on how we perceive things. Our eyes tell our brains that the picture looks better if this rule is followed. Now, let me explain this through examples. We have rule of thirds. So let's get ready. So over here, if you see, we have a character, right? Let's say in this example, a simple actor is drinking tea or coffee. Now let's say she is just placed randomly somewhere on the frame. Notice how there's a lot of gap on her left and on her right. And that kind of seems weird, right? Now, the way rule of thirds work is that we divide the screen into three sections horizontally, and also we divide it vertically as well. Now, if we place her on the left third, notice how immediately it looks more pleasing to the eye. And this, my friend, is an example of what is called making it cinematic. Now, let's take an example of interviews. If you see in this example, you see how I have placed the main character on the left third. Now, what this does is it gives depth to the image, the background, and it also gives space for us to use lower thirds. So you can see lower thirds, there's a space. So this way the screen is never overwhelmed and you have enough room to breathe. Again, the point is to get your audience comfortable. Now let's move to the horizontal lines. It's always good to place a character or an object in one of these lines. This is where playing with headroom is very, very important. Headroom is the space between your head and the frame. Let's take an example. You see the character is sitting and talking. Now imagine if we move her to the bottom, that means there's too much headroom, too much gap. And to be honest, it looks awkward because her face is all the way down there, right? The other scenario is where you cut a person's head off. Now nobody likes that. Even the actor won't like that. It doesn't look good, right? So what do you do? That is where you use these guidelines to place, and it's always beneficial to use these lines as reference. And as and when you use it, eventually you'll understand where these intersections lie. So now look, I place this character now on one of these lines. Look how beautiful the overall frame looks. So now that you've understood the rules, let's break them where we have a very, very strong creative standing. The most important thing is you need to keep in mind is when you're planning these shots, these types of shots, remember that your audience is not just watching a film, right? They are experiencing it. So keeping these right shots with the right emotions is very, very important. And out of all of these, the most important is the right sequence. Now, what I will do is I will show you a little short sequence, but instead I will show you one in the right order and one in the wrong order, right? I will not tell you which one is right and which one is wrong. As an audience, you will immediately be thrown off guard and you will understand what I'm talking about. These are time and proven scientific methods that trigger your brain. So definitely follow this to the core, all right? There's seldom times you can actually break this. Very, very, very few moments, but you need to have like a super, super artistic stand as to why you did what you did, all right? It better be a good one, all right? So let's watch this little short that I created and you tell me which one is correct or which one is seems right and which one seems a little bit off and you feel like I'm not really feeling it, right? So just to before I show you the shots that I've used: establishment shots, close-up shots, medium shots, wide shots. All right. So in the next, I will not tell you anything. In the next lesson, there will be a quiz. So in the quiz, you can choose between the right and the wrong. All right. Okay, so now you guys saw both the videos. Now you can see planning emotions based on the type of shots is extremely, extremely important to keep your audience hooked at all the time. All right, now go to the quiz and let me know which one is right, which one is wrong. If you have any questions, comment below. Chat me up on Discord. All right, guys. So for this lesson, we are on set over here. Let me introduce you to these amazing people. We have Ashish Kamble.
Hello.
And we have Santosh Panigrahi.
Hi.
Over here on camera, we have Nikhil Bhope. He's saying hi to you guys, I promise you. So we have covered types of shots, we have covered angles, we have covered many things. Now what we're going to be talking about is how to frame a shot. So come with me, let's go on set. We have a small little studio setup over here. The setup is basically a simple backdrop, couple of chairs, couple of stools. And what we're going to be talking about is number one, levels. Levels are super, super important. So let's do one thing. Ashish over here, he is always our guinea pig, our actor, and he has good acting skills. And we're going to use him as a guinea pig, and we're going to show you guys how some works. And Santosh over here is going to be our DOP. So right at him, he's going to. We have a simple, simple camera. Just talk about the camera a little bit, Santosh.
Yeah, it's like a simple tripod and camera.
Yeah, so we're using a Sony a6300, so nothing fancy, very simple camera. We're recording in 4K. So the number one first level that we're going to be talking about, right, in framing is eye level. All right, so let's take this camera handheld real quick. So why do you use eye level? Eye level is when you want to showcase expressions. If he's angry, if he's sad, if he's super happy, that's the time where you showcase eye level because eyes speak a million words. So let's remember the type of shots that we have done. Now Santosh over here, he's going to take a medium shot, right? He's going to take a medium shot. He's going to cut it off right over here. Right over here, he's going to cut it off. So at these points is where we have his eyes on the top third of the screen. Over here at these type of shots, when you frame your subject like this, is when his expressions, his dialogue is the most important. So you have to take in mind. So as you can see right now on your screen, is that he's looking at the camera. Usually what happens is actors don't look at the camera. Actors usually look at another person, and when he's talking, he has some anger issues, he is very sad or he's very happy, he's having romantic, so he's looking off camera. Always remember your actors should not look directly at the camera. While shooting, if by chance he looks at the camera, it destroys the whole audience's perspective. All right? So Santosh, he's doing a pretty handheld job. Obviously, it comes with experience. In the initial stages, it'll be hard for you to keep the camera stable, but with experience, with practice, that will happen. So now we're going on to the next level, which is called the hip or the knee level, all right? So hip level, Santosh, can we go a little bit, let's go a little bit wider than a medium shot, okay? Let's go a little bit wider than a medium shot, and we'll go a little bit hip level. So over here, what do you think might happen? So you can see over here how he's holding the camera. Let me just move this tripod out of the way. So as you can see, we're maintaining medium shot over here, okay? We're maintaining medium shot. And as you can see on the screen, what Santosh is seeing right now is a little bit odd angle. Now, how can you frame this properly? We don't want to shoot his crotch, right? We want to shoot something which is important. So what is the object? The object, maybe it could be he's fixing his watch, right? He's fixing his watch. So over here, if you see the level is hip level, so which is like right here. So again, the shot, the type of shot that is, it is a medium shot. So usually eye level, hip level, these type of shots are usually good when you're doing medium shots. I'll tell you why it does. It looks weird if you're doing wide shot. Show them how it's done wrong. Let's go wide. Let's go super wide. Now if you see over here, his forehead is cut off, right? His forehead is cut off. It doesn't bring that cinematic, that feel. But now let's come closer. Let's fix your ring or something, wear your ring. And what we'll do is in the hip shot, we'll go a little bit towards the right, and then you'll see he's fixing his ring. But then what that does, it tells a story that something is bothering him. If he's a married person, he's like missing his wife. You know, if he's fixing his watch, it's like he's late, or he's like just not having he's having a bad time. So now, imagine this, right? Hip level, I cut to eye level, and he's thinking, he's looking at his watch. So imagine when you cut between eye level and hip level, how that creates a nice cinematic edit, all right? Now, moving on to the next level, ground level. Basically, for a ground level, very, very simple. What do? You throw the camera down on the floor. No, I'm just kidding. Don't ever do that, all right? So let's go. Thank God you didn't do it. So let's place the camera down on the ground, and let's see how it looks. All right, now you can see over here, the main motto of ground level is to showcase or give a sense of curiosity to who this person is. We have no idea who this person is. Now let's Ashish, we'll have him act out something nice. So basically what you do, Ashish, Santosh, you stay still, right? Be ground level. Ashish, you come right behind Santosh. Right behind Santosh. And right here, what we'll do is we'll have a revealing shot of just his feet, right? So you just walk towards the coffee mug, all right? Slowly. So you can see on the screen, you can see like he is going over there. We see his shoes. And then what you can do is you can literally try to understand that this is a mysterious character. We have no idea who this person is. So then you can cut to another type of shot, which is a eye level, hip level, ground level, all right? So these are the things that we focus on. Let's go back. Santosh, real quick, can you come just showcase 1, 2, 3, just to show? Okay, now you can see on your screen, we have eye level, medium shot, keep that in mind. Eye level, go down to hip. Let's take a look at how he's standing. Take a look at how he is standing. Take a look at his posture, all right? Your dominant hand should be in the front, all right? Hip level, look at where he's looking at. Don't just aim at the hip level for the sake of it. There needs to be a purpose, like I said. And the last but not the least, we have the ground level, which is something related to the feet, something to build curiosity, something like that, all right? Now, let's move on to the next one,